Aloha! Oh, my little kids are back. I told you it wouldn't be very long. Seems like it. It's a little darker, but it's still Sunday. I told you to do a back. I would do a back to back, and here it is. We've got got this cat on my lap again. Old Coogie, the Coog. And he can't stay away. He's a lover. He loves to be petted. He's a petted. Not like Maymay over there on the couch, curled up after she got done feeding herself. So what we have today, back to back, as I promised in the other two episodes, that the thumbnail is going to be finish what you are reading. That's the thumbnail. Finish what you're reading. There's a lot of reasons behind all that, kids. First of all, you should read, and read some more. I'll get into that someday. I think I kind of have, but not really. I promised on the episode, I Blame You. At the end, I was saying how this is the silhouette that I left off. I was 5 years old. Dad was reading a book, Survivalist. We were survivalists. Excuse me. He was always reading what you could eat. Whatever state you're in, there was food to be found around you. As it's well known, kids, you just have to find the right plants. And you can live. You can live off the land by the plants. Whatever state you're in, kids, you can live on the plants that are excuse me, just around you. You can do this. Dad's living proof of this on all the states that we went to. But I'm only going to pick New Jersey and Arizona right now. So we're in Arizona. Oh, did you? I'm 5 years old in Flagstaff, coming down to Phoenix. And this is the silhouette. Excuse me. Dad's reading. He's reading the book on prickly pears. It's a cactus. It's a cactus that has a pretty little nodule on top. It's usually red or yellow, depending on what part of the state you're in. So as we're going down from Flagstaff, Dad's immediately is reading, and he looks over and says, "Hun, pull over." And Mom was driving. Bro was next to her. I was next to Dad. We pull over. Fields and fields of prickly pears. They're ripe. They're red. They're ready. And Dad jumps out of the truck, and I'm watching him grab all these prickly pears and put them in his pocket. And he comes back with a whole handful. So we're watching him. We didn't run out there. We were just watching him. So I was closest to Dad, as I said, and when he got back in. And he's just popping them in his mouth like berries. And I guess he's biting into a few of them. But Mom's now, she wants to get down to Phoenix. So as we're going down, it's kind of like, not sunset, but the sun is kind of coming down. And I'm looking at Dad. I'm right next to him. I'm looking at him. And I'm noticing that from the way the silhouette is, the way the rays of the sun is, I guess Mom noticed it first, and she said, "Honey, did you finish reading about the prickly pears?" And he's saying, "No, why do you ask?" And I'm looking now and I'm saying, "Dad, you got stickers all over your face." So Mom pulls over, and I remember she had She's always prepared to. She got out of the glove compartment the tweezers, and I'm watching what we had pulled over, and the doors open, and we can still see the sun coming through, and Mom is pulling out all these stickers out of Dad's lips, and kind of a side of he. If anybody's gotten hold of prickly pears, you know what I'm talking about. They're very small. They're very, very tiny. You can barely see them. You can feel them. And once you get them, they're really difficult to get out of your fingers, let alone your lips and face. So this is a little word to the wise. First of all, there's a proper way of eating prickly pears. I'm going to tell you kids a little secret that I don't know if the Indians taught me. Okay, they said they are very tasty. Excuse me. And by the way, they're very high in vitamin C. So what the Indians do is they get a stick, and they knock them off. And they usually have a fire going or nice coals, and they take them and they put them the stick into the prickly pear, and then they put them in the fire, or they roll them around in the coals. And what you find is all those little pricklies, they go. And then you take it out, and you can do it either way. You could eat them raw, or you can cook them up. You can make a jam out of them. There's so many different ways you can cook prickly pear. One of these days, I'll give you the recipe that I find to be the most tasty. Besides all that, that is just, I didn't tell you that there's only two more little stories because this is going to be a short one. As short as I can make it. It'll all come full circle, by the way, about finish what you are reading. So we got that out of the way. Now, I got to go just to this next little short story on how we did travel, as I said in the past, many times from New Jersey to Arizona and Arizona to New Jersey. And there are many ways of going this direction, kids. You can take the high road, you can take the low road, and you can take the middle road. And this goes with life also. You can take the high road, you can take the low road, or you can take the middle road. And what we found when we went from New Jersey to Arizona, we did take the high road, the low road, and the middle road. And the middle road would have been Route 66. Anybody knows about Route 66? It did start about the bottom of Michigan, and then it came down all the way to California. And you didn't get there until pretty much after Virginia into, well, anyway, the way from Jersey, we usually went from New Jersey through Pennsylvania. Then we went, there was 10 states that we went to going through Route 66. And that ended up to be our main route after a while because it was much quicker. And by the way, when you go through Texas, it takes 24 hours. I don't care how fast you drive. It still takes 24 hours to get from even the little bitty top on. It takes 24 hours because I've done it so many times. Tornado Alley, stay away from Tornado Alley. I'll have an episode on that one. When Grandpa and Aunt Nancy, that would have been after my first fourth grade, going back to Arizona when I went to Tonalea, my second fourth grade. That's when Aunt Nancy and Grandpa came with us. Just keep that on the back shelf. That'll be Tornado Alley, which you want to stay away from. Anybody who lives in Tornado Alley, you know what I'm talking about. And by the way, you should, next time your house gets taken down, build a roundhouse. A roundhouse. Did you know it takes 500 miles an hour wind to knock down a roundhouse? Just put that on the back shelf. Okay, what I want to get through this little story is it's necessary that I tell you this because when we were taking whatever road it was, Mom woke up. She woke me up screaming, "Hun, You are a state away from where we have to be. Dad says, well, I'm really, he got off on the wrong turn. He got on the wrong turnpike. And women, you know how the guys are, they never stop and ask for directions, where you always do. There's something about women not having a problem with asking directions and guys maybe not. I don't know. But Dad was way up in, might have been Oregon. We were, a, she kept saying a state away. So after that, in fact, during that time, Dad says, okay, it won't happen again. Because he pointed at me. He says, son, you're going to learn to read a map and you're going to be up with me at night. Because I had owl eyes. Even Mom, I was sleeping most of the day when we were traveling. Excuse me, I was pretty much up with both of them because I don't know, night vision or whatever, they had a problem seeing. I could see no problem. So I was up, I was a map reader. And as I told you before, kids, that this little digit right here to here is 1 inch. And anybody has a map, you know what I'm talking about. There's a scale. There's a north, the east, the south, the west, and then you got an inch to go, and all that stuff. So I learned a map reading on my fourth grade. I didn't get to Kenilworth on the last episode, Kenilworth. So I was on my way there, but I didn't know I was there. I thought I was going to go back to Tonalea, but no, it didn't happen. So I knew about reading a map, and that's all I wanted to say, how that happened, because now I can get to the next story. Thank you. I'm in Boy Scouts. After Kenilworth, we moved back to New Jersey. We buy the property in Millstone, New Jersey. So it would have been my first fifth grade out of my two fifth grades that I got to go to Boy Scouts. I started Boy Scouts in my first fifth grade. So this is the story how this works. I have to bring up skunk cabbage. Excuse me. Skunk cabbage grows all over the United States. And you kids either know or you don't know. You little preschoolers and kindergartners, ask your parents around you, your guardians, hey, do you know anything about skunk cabbage? And everybody's gonna say probably something negative about it, But as I said in the past, kids, there's positive and negative on anything you have. That's all. That's all it is. You have to realize that and have discernment. So I'm in Boy Scouts. And since I'm in Boy Scouts, the Scoutmaster says, does anybody know how to read a map? And I raised my hand. Nobody else knew how to read a map. They didn't know about a compass. They didn't know, well, the compass maybe, but they didn't know how to read a map. And I said, I did. He says, oh, really? And because, see, that's what they did. They took us 2 miles, could have been 5 miles, I don't know, whatever amount of miles it was from where we camped out into the boonies, out through the woods. And it was kind of like they got us in a car, or truck. I guess we all got piled in. They took us down a road, and then they dropped us off, and they said, "Who can read a map?" I raised my hand. So I looked at the map, and I saw, hey, well, this, and I see the water, and I see that, and I say, well, and I guess it was only 2 miles. We were only 2 miles away. It wasn't no big deal. So I said, yeah, I can read this map. And he says, okay, you're in charge of reading the map to get us back to camp. I said, okay, I feel positive on this. So this is the way it went, kids. There was like a little cliff area, 35, 40 feet down, and then there was the water that I could see on the map. And then I saw that we had to go north. And then how do you know north? Of course, we know moss grows on the north side. Normally, there's some places that it grows all around the tree, but normally it's on the north side, okay? Also, newts, those little orange newts, they kind of hang on the north side too. My point being, we're going through the forest, and I knew the waterway was there, and there was the trail. Most of the kids were on the trail. But you know what, kids? Sometimes we become trailblazers. And I was more of a trailblazer because I didn't take the trail. I kind of like just made my own trail. And as I was going, got it somewhere. I had a, see, as I've said in the past, I like sticks. I've always had a stick. And this is about the size of the stick I had. It was about up to my waist. And I had this kind of stick. And so what I did was, I was hitting trees, smacking trees. And then when we came to the skunk cabbage, it was as far as the eye can see, the skunk cabbage. As anybody well knows, it can get 16 to 22 feet, 22 feet, 16 to 22 inches high. But I think mine was that I was running through pretty much was about up to my knees. So as I was running through it, I was a trailblazer and I was cracking this particular stick about this size through all the skunk cabbage, running that way. And I guess the wind was blowing this way in my face, so I really didn't feel like I was doing anything negative. But I heard a bunch of the kids saying, "Stop running and breaking all the skunk cabbage." Because when you do this, kids, what happens? It really does smell like a skunk. In fact, that's what I think I heard somebody say. I smell skunk. And then the scoutmaster said, he's running through the skunk cabbage. And then I heard, stop running through the skunk cabbage. And by that time, I was already maybe a quarter mile up the road. Anyway, as I was recanting all this to tell you this story, see, I thought that the scoutmaster was saying to me, or he didn't say to me, but he got up ahead of me because I waited for everybody. And then at that point, because I was a trailblazer, I was supposed to be up front showing everybody where to go, how to get back to camp. But now he took over. He took over ahead of me. He was up in front of me. And I thought it was like maybe a power trip or something, but I think he wanted me to stop hitting didn't want me to hit any more skunk cabbage, which I wasn't going to do. But he was in front of me, and that's fine. He wanted to take over. So I didn't hit any more of the skunk cabbage. But I did take my stick, and I was cracking it into the trees, okay? And as you will know, kids, this is what I'm trying to tell you. It can be very dangerous to do this, to get a stick and crack it on a tree. Because first of all, a piece of it could, and actually that's what happened. When I was hitting it, some of the tips of the stick I had were flying off in different directions. But it was like kind of just a little bit. But when I got to this one tree, I really gave it a real good whack. And it took a really big chunk of my stick. And it just so happens that the scoutmaster was up at a certain angle to when I hit it, it broke off and it stuck right in the back of his leg. And that's when everybody stopped. He stopped. And he looked at me. He looked at me with some, surprise. And it wasn't funny. He took the stick that was in his leg out, and he walked over to me, and he took my stick. He took it away from me. And do you know what he did? Do you know what he did, kids? He took my hand, and he walked me over to a stump, a tree that had fallen down. And he put his right leg up. He took me over his leg, and he took the rest of my stick. And he gave me a spanking like I don't believe I've ever had before, even with the switches that I went and found. As I said, we had that little game, Dad, we all played Find Our Own Switch. This stick, he hit me on my behind like maybe 10, 11 times. I was 11 years old and I cried. It was very painful. Well, let's just say it was a sensation. We know about pain. We're not going to go there. So I was crying, and I think I said something like, I'm going to tell my dad. That struck home with him. He had a different demeanor about him, and he didn't say he was sorry, but he did say, okay, let's get back to camp. So we got back to camp. And what happened was, you know what? Now that I think about it, I guess that's why, everybody was saying it was my birthday or something like that. So maybe it was a birthday spanking. I'm sorry. I'm just thinking about it now because after we had dinner, I can't remember what it was. Nothing so memorable. But they said, "Hey, Uncle Mike, come on out. We got something for you." And I wanted to stay in my tent. I just really didn't feel like coming out anywhere. So they got me out, and I got into the big tent. And then who comes around the corner? The guy that gave me the spanking with the chocolate cake. They knew it was my favorite, the chocolate devil food cake. That was my favorite. And happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. They all sang happy birthday. And I got to blow out my 11 candles. And you know what? It must have been something about it. I just never mentioned it to my dad. Actually, I didn't mention it to anybody in the family. Probably because I knew I did something really negative. Cracking that stick and breaking it into the... He pulled it out of his leg. I mean, it had quite a... So what I'm trying to say is, kids, you don't do that, the stick thing, all right? Because it can be very dangerous, is all I wanted to say. Plus, it's coming full circle. I'm promising you, this is the end part. We're in New Jersey. We're by whatever river it is. It could have been the extension of the Raritan River. We had a camping trip. Dad was now involved because now Dad was a scoutmaster. And I never did tell him that story about the stick. I was kind of embarrassed about it myself. But this is the way it goes. We're not in the same forest, but as you well know, everyone in America, you've got skunk cabbage somewhere, all right? It has a little yellow flower to it if you don't know what it is. None of them were ever in bloom for us when I was around it. So I guess we were going on one of our little treks, and Dad was involved. And what does Dad say? He's reading his book. He's reading his book again. How to stay alive with the surroundings that you have. And he's reading, and all of a sudden, he screams out, "Skunk cabbage!" And we said, "Yeah, Dad, we already know about it." He says, "No, you can eat it." "Dad, I don't think you want to eat that skunk cabbage. It doesn't smell very well. It doesn't smell very positive." And he says, "No, it says right here you can eat skunk cabbage." So, there you go. There's Dad breaking that skunk cabbage. He said, "Dad, you can keep it over there." He says, "No, all you have to do is boil it. You boil it and it tastes like spinach. Spinach! It tastes like spinach." We're saying, "Dad, I don't think so." Yeah. I mean, Dad, I like a little scotchata on the pizza. That's the pizza is a scotchata pizza. I love that, Dad. But I don't think I want to go for the skunk cabbage. So what we're doing, this is so memorable. It's like you guys are bringing back memories. It was when Ragu came out. Remember Ragu? Anybody in the 60s, 60, 64, 65? It would have been 65 because it been in that year. Remember Christmas? That would have been that year, Christmas. What does Christmas mean to you? Okay. I believe I remember that number, 57. Any of you kids, what does Christmas mean to you? Dad thought outside the box. All right. I highly recommend you might want to check 57 out. It's in that same time period that we're talking here now. We're eating ragu, and we're Italian. All right. Maybe I was very hungry. I wasn't starving, as you well know. There's a difference between hunger and starving. We had our aluminum little kettle doing up the ragu. oh, it smells so great. And, oh, that ragu. Yeah, we made our spaghetti. Dad's cooking up skunk cabbage. He's boiling the skunk cabbage. You just boil it. You boil it and strain it. Tastes like spinach. So we're eating the while we're eating the ragu on the spaghetti, no cheese, and I promise you, the first taste was the most magnificent taste of spaghetti I ever had in my life, and I was Italian. This is where we cooked. We cooked our sauce like 2 days. You know that. I'll have a recipe for it. It'll be under spaghetti sauce, all right, to help anybody want to make a positive spaghetti sauce. And I'll go from the meat to the vegetarian if you want, and that'll be perfect for when that, put it on the back shelf. We're now with the first bite of the ragu, the spaghetti. Fantastic! And then we had another bite. That's not bad. The third bite, by the fourth bite, I'm saying, I don't want any more of this stuff. And I'm not, I'm just saying, for Italian, excuse me, it wasn't my cup of tea. So by this time, Dad is now done with his skunk cabbage to where he strained it, and now he's hey, anybody want some of it? No, okay, I'm fine. He's eating the skunk cabbage, and all of a sudden, he grabs his throat, and then he says, and he spits it out, and then he says, my tongue is swelling. And we could see his lips. His lips were getting bigger. It's not funny, kids. When you start reading something, finish what you're reading. He stopped at that one point. Sort of like the prickly pears. He didn't finish where the pricklers were coming in. So we're on a different level here of skunk cabbage. Excuse me, which is it is edible. But you know what? If you don't boil it and strain it 3 times, you know what happens? The first bite, it's toxic, and that's what you're going to get, a reaction. In fact, you're going to get also vomiting and diarrhea. Excuse me. It didn't go that far for Dad because, well, even with the swollen tongue and the lips, he said, you know what? Because he was diagnosing himself because he's finishing what he's reading. He's saying, oh, you got to boil it 3 times. So what is it? He boils it 3 times. And he eats it. It's edible now. But we didn't want to have anything to do with it. Well, actually, I did take a bite of it on the 3rd time. It didn't taste like spinach. So that's all I wanted to say, kids. Whatever you start reading, always finish it, especially when it comes to, I guess Uncle Martin did it too, If you go to episode 47 on my 23-year-old dog, and how after that part I went into what I did. I read green tea is the most fantastic stuff for you, and it is. But you don't want to drink 1 or 2 gallons a day for 3 years. It's negative then. See? So everything you read, you want to finish reading. See, when I saw what it did to me in episode 47, it changed my life because it was an awakening that we should always whatever. And I was brought up, let me tell you, on herbs and teas. Dad, he did have Parkinson's for a little while, and there was different reasonings why he didn't have it after that. I don't know if I'll ever go there, but he had it and then he didn't. We all have things that we can get rid of with positive thought with getting rid of things that we don't need, and we can we can be healed by divine intervention and through the proper thought, through faith. There are so many levels for healing. I only brought in a little bit on the physical healing, but again, someday possibly I'll go into the mental, emotional, spiritual healing, but not right now, because we just finished up with finish. What you are reading that you start with is the thumbnail. And that's pretty much the episode for you today. I did a back-to-back for you. And I think I still owe you one more back-to-back, but I don't want to go there because it's too negative. I don't know if I guess I have some ideas, but right now, I just want to say it's been a pleasure getting to talk to you again and having you listen, because I feel out there that a lot of you are already feeling better because you're looking better. And until we talk to each other again, because I can feel you empaths and then telepathically that I'm grabbing at least 3 or 4 more mice out there. So until we see each other again, aloha and be well.